For that industry, typically the challenges rely around supply chain and procurement of product, both in terms of cost as well as in terms of delivery commitments. So getting the product to your door, you think about it, if you have a 100,000 square foot mill with 10 lines in it, if your product doesn't show up on the door, you now have a line down. Not good. So really it's about that supply chain optimization, getting in what you need and when you need it. The second process is sort of the initial processing. So if you think about it, when you get a log to your door or you get a piece of a rock of ore, you don't know what your yield is going to be of your semi-finished goods. So how much board feet am I going to get out of a log? How much meat do I get out of a hog? How much steel do I get out of a chunk of ore? So that's really one of the big problems that faces a mill industry. And not only how much of the things that I know about will I get, how many unknown things will I get? So the biggest problem in those industries in the manufacturing piece to a semi-finished good is really understanding how much you're going to get and what it costs you to produce that. And ultimately what you'd like to be able to do is track the yield by supplier. So if you know, for example, with a log from a specific yard, you typically get an 80% yield out of that log. Then you can manage your supply chain around that. So that's really sort of the big thing, is getting it all the way to that semi-finished good and understanding the supply chain and the costs. There are a number of ERP products, and mill's kind of an interesting industry because there are a lot of specialists in certain products. So you wouldn't call them ERP, but there's a lot of very specific market-based tools that show up in the mill space. Tend to be very focused on a given industry, so whether it's steel production, whether it's wood production, there are some very targeted niche solutions that do things very well in a specific, very narrow vertical. The challenge is that as the market moves towards being able to understand the full life cycle from the origination of the product to the delivery of the semi-finished or finished good, you can't anymore have what I'll call a disintermediation in the middle of your supply chain, because now that doesn't make its way through your full supply profile and you can't really understand it. So there's a big move towards that end-to-end process because the benefits of a niche solution are now being outweighed by the entire value chain. So we're starting to see a lot more of those what used to be specialized industries now starting to come to an ERP because it can deliver that holistic sense of, from the point that I delivered it, where did I start and how long did that take and how much did it cost? A mill products company typically should be looking for something that does supply chain optimization really well. They should be looking for something that does manufacturing from an execution perspective and monitoring that execution, as well as from a costing of the execution. So those are sort of the important things. The other thing that is big typically in mill, if they're in the distribution side of the business, where they're actually managing distribution at distribution centers, is really about managing the distribution of those products, whether they're semi-finished or finished, out to the end consumer of those products. So I'm the industry principal. The whole focus again is to understand the specific issues that are incumbent in that industry, the typical ways that those problems have been solved, and the solution components that SAP brings to that solution. So really being able to tie the need versus the product offering and making it an efficient sort of harmonization. The other thing that's becoming much more important is understanding what the end game is for mill, which allows you then to build a solution that doesn't become dead-ended and need to be reworked. The prepackaged solution, specifically in mill, it's really designed to allow the entry into the space for a company that is sort of at the threshold of becoming a larger company. It gives them the ability to entry with the functionality they need without adding on the bells and whistles initially. So basically containing cost and allowing that industry to get into the game early on. That then gives them the ability over time to start to leverage the new and additional functionality. And typically our templates include the core things for that industry. So basic financials, accounts receivable, accounts payable, procurement, some notion of inventory or warehouse management, and the ability to sell and buy.